Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, major changes coming to the way you recycle your trash.
Their costs have increased because they've had to do more to ensure that the recycling's cleaner. They've had additional staffing costs.
A live report on how today's city council vote will affect curbside recycling in San Diego. Plus, Mexico is deploying troops to its northern and southern borders. Details on efforts to get a handle on the migrant crisis. And brush fires threaten lives and homes, but now a new study shows just how damaging smoke from those fires can be to people, even hundreds of miles away. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. It's Tuesday, June 25th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Curbside recycling is about to get a lot more expensive in San Diego. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live in Miramar with more on how the recycling market is changing. Matt?
Yeah, Ebony, right down that way is the Miramar landfill. Right behind me is one of the city's recycling centers. Now, earlier this afternoon, the San Diego City Council voted to approve new curbside recycling contracts costing an estimated $65 million over the next 10 years. Now, before this, for the last 20 years, the city used to make money on recycling, but that's all changing now. And under these new contracts, polystyrene, commonly referred to as styrofoam, may not actually be recycled.
Our contract, which was typically a revenue contract over the years and designed as a revenue contract, will actually become a cost to the city.
Ken Prue is the recycling program manager for the city of San Diego. He says much of San Diego's recycling used to be sold to China. Up until recently, 2% of all recycling sent to China could contain contaminants, but that's changed to just 0.05%.
The 2% standard was long-standing, and then they went to half of 1%. With a lot of penalties.
Prue says that's created a ripple effect for the recycling markets.
Their costs have increased because they've had to do more to ensure that the recycling's cleaner.
The city used to make $3 to $4 million per year selling its recycling, but now it's going to cost the city that much per year to process.
For FY 2020, be between 3 and 3.5 million in cost to the city. And then that cost would increase over the years.
To help save money, the city is looking to get rid of recycling polystyrene, which it says would cost $900,000 over 7 years.
And so it's very expensive, and actually the amount of material that's recovered, in the last fiscal year, we recovered 15 tons of styrofoam out of 66,000 tons of curbside recyclables that were collected. So it's a really, really small amount.
Instead, polystyrene would be sent here to the Miramar landfill.
Ideally, you would divert anything you possibly could, but there's a balance as well in looking at what's with limited funding, you do a cost-benefit analysis.
There's currently funding to cover the cost of the contract for next year, but not after that.
Ideally, the markets will rebound, and then we'll be back to receiving revenue again, or at the least, hopefully, minimizing the costs.
Now, after next year, it's unclear how the city will pay for the cost of these new curbside recycling contracts. Staff say they're evaluating all their options, but they need to come up with a plan soon. Now, during today's council meeting, there was a big, robust discussion back and forth between the council members about whether or not the city should be recycling polystyrene or if it's worth it. Ultimately, the city voted to allow it for up to 6 more months while they complete another cost-benefit analysis. In Miramar, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Matt, regarding that city council meeting, what else happened on this front?
Yeah, Ebony, surprisingly, there were no public speakers on this item. It just went right to council discussion. But as I imagined, they had a big, robust discussion. Some of the council members were very confused about this polystyrene aspect of it. There was a big debate over whether or not the city should be paying this $900,000 over the next 7 years to keep recycling polystyrene. And like I said, ultimately, the city council voted to kind of postpone that for up to another 6 months while they can do another cost-benefit analysis. Some say that, hey, regardless of what the costs are, we should be trying to divert as much as we can away from the landfill, while some say it's simply just not worth it. Now, I will point out, though, you heard in the story 15 tons of polystyrene is recycled, but another 1,600 tons goes into the landfill. Ebony?
Thanks, Matt. Prosecutors closed their case against Eddie Gallagher. The Navy SEAL is accused of several war crimes, including killing a teenage prisoner in Iraq. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh joins us now with the very latest. Steve.
Well, that's right, Ebony. Prosecutors closed their case Late this afternoon, the defense immediately filed a motion to find Gallagher not guilty on all charges. The judge ruled against that case. Now, that's despite these bombshell allegations from last week where medic Corey Scott said that he had actually killed the wounded prisoner by closing off his breathing tube after he said Gallagher stabbed him. Judge Aaron Rue says it's a very high standard for a judge to dismiss any charge, so he kept all of the charges in place, which means the May 2017 killing of a detainee, the shooting of a young woman and an old man with a sniper rifle, posing with the corpse, and the obstruction of justice charges, which come from intimidating witnesses. Now, earlier we learned about their closed Facebook page only for Navy SEALs and special operators. Gallagher's team admits that Gallagher had posted things on that site calling the witnesses in this case liars. The defense says they were trying to warn other SEALs in the community about those SEALs who were set to testify against him. Now, before prosecutors rested, they did release text messages that, including the photo of Gallagher posing with the knife. One of the text messages says, "Cool story to tell when I get home. Got my knife skills on," and then also the more famous "good story, got him with my hunting knife." Both of those were introduced. Now, the defense spent the morning cross-examining the lead investigator in this case, NCIS investigator Joe Warpinski. We found out that he had only been with NCIS about 2.5 years before he got this very high-profile war crimes case. And we know that the case started on April 9th, 2018, on a tip to NCIS. So that's almost a year after this death of the detainee happened in Iraq, which accounts for all of the lack of physical evidence. Tomorrow morning starts with the defense team. They're expected to go for next couple of days. Live from Naval Base San Diego, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Thanks, Steve. More damaging accusations in the case against Congressman Duncan Hunter. Federal prosecutors have filed more than a dozen new motions. They allege he used campaign funds to pursue extramarital affairs with lobbyists and congressional aides. KPBS's Deb Welsh explains the latest court documents.
The court papers say Hunter illegally used campaign funds to finance romantic flings with a series of women. Those allegations are connected to charges he and his wife misspent more than $200,000 on trips and personal expenses. Prosecutors say Hunter repeatedly used campaign credit cards or sought reimbursement for expenses that included resort hotel rooms, airfare, and Uber rides to the homes of 5 women with whom he had intimate relationships. Earlier this month, the congressman's wife, Margaret Hunter, pleaded guilty to 1 corruption count and agreed to testify against her husband. Hunter, meantime, filed his own set of court papers asking that the case be dismissed. Deb Welsh, KPBS News.
The Mexican government is making good on an agreement with the Trump administration. It's sending troops to its northern and southern borders. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler explains it's part of an effort to stop Central American migrants from entering the U.S.
Since November, more than 5,000 U.S. troops have been stationed right here along the southern border. Now, more troops are on their way from the opposite side, in Mexico.
The Mexican armed forces have rarely, if ever, played a role in immigration enforcement, but that's about to change. Last week, photographers showed Mexican soldiers detaining 2 women and a young girl in Texas before they crossed the Rio Grande into the United States. On Monday, Defense Minister Luis Crescencio Sandoval revealed that the action was part of a larger shift in enforcement by Mexico, where not only will troops guard its southern border with Guatemala and Belize, but also its northern border with the United States. The shift is partly to satisfy demands from the U.S. over threatened tariffs. It's also part of a new initiative by the Morena government to use the military to police the interior of Mexico, which includes the establishment of a National Guard. According to the Mexican government, soldiers will now hand the migrants over to the National Migration Institute. for possible deportation or to establish legal status in Mexico. The Mexican government has also begun restructuring its migration authority, laying off 500 agents it accused of being corrupt on Tuesday and replacing them with members of the federal police.
This month, the Mexican government has been recruiting for its brand new National Guard in Tijuana. It's unclear whether the new troops will be kept here in Baja or sent down to its southern border to continue to deter migrants from crossing into Mexico in an effort to reach the United States. Max Nadler, KPBS News.
Now, President Trump is blaming Democrats for the humanitarian issues at the southern border. The Trump administration is currently being criticized over inhumane conditions inside the Border Patrol facility in Clint, Texas. Last week, an investigation discovered migrants lacked food, medical care, and found older children trying to care for toddlers. During a press conference in the Oval Office today, President Trump said assistance from Mexico is not enough, and Democrats in Congress need to pass bills to help handle the migrant crisis.
I just want to thank Mexico. They've really done a great job. We appreciate what they're doing, and hopefully they can keep it up because it's very important. They have Mexico's very powerful immigration laws. They can do things. Our laws are so bad. What we would like to do, and I'll do it right now officially, is ask the Democrats to give us help on asylum, help on all of the loopholes, the horrible loopholes that get signed in over a period of years that don't allow us to do what we should be able to do. We need the votes of Democrats.
On the left and on the right, the U.S. Mexico border is set to be a major focal point of the 2020 presidential election. Tomorrow night, several Democratic contenders will take the stage for the first debate. AP reporter Kelly Dashiell previews what we can expect.
I am running for president of the United States.
I am a candidate for president of the United States.
Are you ready for a political revolution?
For months, they've been making their case, raising money, and working the crowds. But the 2020 Democratic race for the White House kicks off in earnest this week with the first primary debate in Miami, spanning 2 nights. A whopping 24 Democratic hopefuls are vying to take on Donald Trump, the largest field in recent history. 20 of those made the cut to appear on the debate stage, randomly divided into 2 groups, 10 on each night.
The debates are really going to pose a challenge to these Democratic candidates. The stage is going to be crowded, so the opportunity for a candidate to break through is pretty slim. You're not going to get a lot of time.
4 of the 6 top polling candidates will face off the second night, including former Vice President Joe Biden and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, making that the night with the biggest stakes, particularly for Biden, who has been leading in most Democratic polls.
He's the big guy in the race now, and they're going to want to bring him down. So I think he's going to be a target in this debate, and he has to demonstrate that he can hold his own. He can't make a flub.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, surging in some polls, takes center stage the first night, sans most of her toughest competition, giving her a primetime chance to shine. The crowded stage presents a crucial test for the lower polling tier of candidates who need a breakout moment in this first debate to introduce themselves to voters and elevate their struggling campaigns.
If you're a lesser-known candidate, you have to make some kind of mark in this debate. Because it will be a predicate for fundraising and media attention. They're going to have to come up with something that is memorable, short, and sweet, because if they don't, they're going to get lost in the clutter.
For the relatively well-known and higher polling candidates, the key to success might just be getting through this first debate unharmed.
I think most candidates that we've talked to really want to emerge from the debate unscathed and don't expect that it will result in any huge bounce for them. The most important thing is to not do something that's damaging to your candidacy at this point.
The 4 candidates left off the stage did not make the Democratic National Committee's polling and fundraising requirements needed to participate in the debate. And the DNC is already warning the thresholds will be higher to qualify for the next round scheduled for this fall. Kelly Dashiell, Associated Press.
Campaign season is here. The first Democratic presidential debate is taking place this week, and there's a San Diego organization that's making sure that young people are paying attention. We're joined now by Warson Arden with Youth Will. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what is the objective of Youth Will?
So back in 2006, the San Diego community saw a spike in youth violence, and the community leaders, community organizations, community members came together in order to sort of address the issue and ask what caused the spike in youth violence. From those discussions came an idea to create a youth development office. The youth development office is supposed to be an actual office within the city of San Diego, but unfortunately never came to be. So we were formerly known as the Youth Development Office. And at the beginning of this year, we rebranded and became Youth Will in order to create a youth-centered approach to everything that we did, in order to give an opportunity and an environment to youth in our community, in our county, so that we advocate for and fight for a future where every young person has everything that they need to be happy, healthy, and prepared to reach their full potential.
And part of that effort, Youth Will led an effort to come up with a Youth Bill of Rights for the county. Can you tell me about the objective of this Bill of Rights?
So some of our fellows actually were the authors and put together the Youth Bill of Rights. And the way that they did that is that they met with youth organizations, and youth members in our community, and sort of asked them, like, what do you need in your community? What are issues that you're facing that you feel like needs to be addressed in our community? And from those discussions came the Youth Bill of Rights. And the Youth Bill of Rights addressed a lot of issues, including food security, healthcare, environmental justice, and so on and so forth. So it was sort of, what do you need in our community? What are issues that you're facing? And the youth came together and pretty much created the Youth Bill of Rights.
And what change do you hope this Youth Bill of Rights motivates?
So the Youth Bill of Rights, so actually over the summer, we're having a Summer of Youth Power. And we're using the Summer of the Summer of Youth Power is 11 forms, each one focusing on a right on the Bill of Rights. And within those forms, we're actually collaborating and working with youth organizations across our county in order to ask what we need to do in order for these rights to come to reality. So we want to create a San Diego, again, that where every young person has everything that they need to be happy, healthy, and prepared to reach their full potential. And the way we want to do that is ask ourselves what resources need to be in place for these rights to come to reality.
So hearing directly from the youth. Mm-hmm. So tell me about the watch parties happening this week.
So tomorrow and Thursday at 5:30 p.m. at the Jacobs Center in Southeast San Diego, we are having a presidential debate viewing parties. And one thing, we want to give youth an environment where they can have fun. They can have food, play games. We have a presidential debate bingo. We have a photo booth where youth can have fun and take pictures. So we want to create a fun environment where youth can enjoy themselves, but also watch the presidential debate. And afterwards have a conversation as to what we did hear from the candidates and what we did not hear from them as well. So create this political awareness and engagement while simultaneously having fun. But also the presidential debate watch party is a launch for the Summer of Youth Power. So we want to talk about what that campaign and that series looks like at the presidential debates.
So how is encouraging civil engagement help with one of your founding principles, which is to protect the youth of San Diego County?
If I could, describe it in one phrase, it would be youth empowerment. And not only are we creating environments such as the presidential debates where youth are politically aware and politically engaged, but we are also making sure that youth, who are the future leaders and the future of our community, are part of the decision-making process. They are identifying problems in our community and are finding solutions that can help solve those problems. So a lot of times when we speak to youth, I think one of the main things that they identify is that they feel like their voices are not being heard. So they feel like the adults around them are making decisions. And I think a lot of times we sort of dismiss the youth because we feel like that they are not politically engaged and that they're not aware of what is going on. And this is sort of to show, no, we are politically aware, and we are watching the debates, and we are aware of what is going on with our community, and we demand that we are part of the decision-making process and that our voices are included.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, as Democrats prepare to back an emergency border funding bill, the acting head of the Border Patrol resigns. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
As wildfires become more frequent and intense, millions of people are at risk of inhaling smoke spread hundreds of miles from the source. KPBS's Chris Underwood explains the research and the danger.
It's definitely something like I never thought I'd have to be prepared for.
When tragedy struck the town of Paradise in Northern California, the effects of the wildfire were also felt hundreds of miles away. Tiny particles from pine needles, grasses, tree trunks, forest debris, and even houses were turned to ash and sent into the air. The smoke clouds settled in the Bay Area for days. NASA and research scientists at several major universities say tens of millions of people in the western U.S. face a growing health risk as wildfires get more intense and frequent blazes launch lung-damaging smoke toward populated cities. One study by atmospheric scientists at Colorado State University estimates the number of deaths from chronic exposure to smoke will double in the coming decades.
So by the end of the century, we predict in our study that would double the number of deaths attributed to smoke to be on the order of several tens of thousands as opposed to 10 to 20,000.
Smoke from the campfire last November was especially worrisome for Sarah Montoya in San Francisco. Her 3 children have been diagnosed with virus-induced wheezing.
I just sort of wonder if it was going to go away, like how long it was going to be like that, what the long-term damage was going to be. I was reading things like it was the equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes in and out, like being outside for 5 minutes was the equivalent of smoking a pack of cigarettes. And I'm like, that can't possibly be okay.
Her son ended up in the emergency room when smoke engulfed the city in early November last year.
Fairlawn when he was in the hospital with pneumonia and RSV. And so we had wonderful purified air because we were in the hospital. We don't know if it was related or not. We just know that he needed a breathing treatment in the ER at the same time. And so the following weekend, we left town because we wanted them to have a chance to be outside. So we went to Tahoe, the one dot on the map that had clean air.
Smoke not only pollutes the surrounding area, the wind can carry it thousands of miles, increasing health risks across wide swaths of the country.
Small particles of all kinds can cause everything from coughing and throat irritation to heart attacks, heart disease, stroke, certain kinds of cancers. We know that small particles can also affect babies in the womb.
Scientists are developing better models to track where the smoke goes in order to issue warnings and alerts. It's called the High-Resolution Rapid Refresh Smoke Forecasting Tool and will use data from satellites to determine the amount of particulates in the air. The darker colors on the map indicate unhealthy levels of particulates.
These colors shows that heavy smoke, which you will see because it degrades visibility, and so you will smell it, and so these are overall unhealthy levels.
More than 80 people died in the Camp Fire and thousands of homes were destroyed. And while wildfire season is year-round here in San Diego, the weather and wind seem to be in our favor. For now, meteorologist Paul Williams has our forecast.
Overall, we're still seeing a healthy amount of cloud cover pushing its way throughout a good portion of Southern California. Now, we're still going to have a tremendous amount of moisture that's going to kick in for us throughout the morning time. And I know that kind of makes it for a very gloomy depiction, but eventually that's going to lift. But as far as what to expect immediately, look for the warming sunshine, particularly in the afternoon hours. That's going to continue. Now, the rain still missing in action because it's just not happening for us. And the low clouds that we've been dealing with in the early morning hours making it a little bit dreary and not so great to get out of bed, so to speak, from a cosmetic point of view, of course, meteorologically speaking. Well, they're going to eventually lift a little bit for us. But as of right now, not happening. Take a look at our futurecast. Early in the morning, starting at 1 o'clock in the morning, our futurecast is indicating that we're looking at a good deal of cloud cover that's going to stick and stay around the San Diego area. We go through the timeline here, and we see it easing a little bit further in. Now, it begins to kind of ebb and flow back and forth for us by 10 o'clock in the morning for Wednesday. And by Wednesday afternoon, we see it clearing out. But then by the evening time, easing its way back into the area. And we're going to see that consistent back and forth that will continue throughout the forecast period for us in our area. As far as tonight, tonight is concerned, becoming cloudy, as we've just demonstrated, courtesy of our forecasting models, dropping to 63 degrees. San Diego County, we're going to drop to 55 degrees. In Ramona, Mount Laguna, we're going to drop to 52 degrees. Now, for tomorrow, we're going to open up a good deal of sunshine. A lot brighter as you move further inland. So you're looking at Mount Laguna, 71 degrees with bright, brilliant sunshine, but Borrego Springs, we're warming all the way up to 100 degrees. Now, as we go into the late week, we're going to see the jet stream that's going to actually, in a sense, just pull to our north, and we'll see the cooler conditions to the north. We're still going to stay on the warm side of things. Here's a look at the 5-day outlook. On the coast, 72 with low-breaking clouds on Wednesday. Then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're looking for it to turn sunny with low-breaking clouds. Temperature staying in the 70s. Overnight lows nearing the 60-degree mark, slightly above it or slightly below it. Inland, we're looking for it to stay in the upper 70s to low 80s till we get to Friday, Saturday, where we'll click over into the mid-80s with mostly sunny skies inland. And then in the desert, well, we're going to clock 100 on Wednesday, 101 on Friday, and then 103 Saturday and Sunday. So the heat really cranks up. Back to you, Ebony.
Thanks. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.